Hello everyone, welcome back to the shop. It's time for an update. MillMage has been hard at work. The team at Lightburn have been adding some updates. It finally got VCarve and 3D Relief Carve. So let's take a look and see what it can do. When you first open MillMage, you're going to be brought to a material setup page. And that's where we'll have to this is where we're going to have to enter our material dimensions to get our job set up. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go from metric to imperial. So we're going to go from millimeters to inches. And I'm going to measure out this block of wood here on my spoil board. I'm looking at 13.5 inches wide and probably about 8 inches. Nope, 6.5 inches. I bet you it's 2 inches. Dead on 2 inches thick. I do know that MillMage can connect to Gerbil Howe, and I am using the super long board on this long mill, so that will be Gerbil Howe, and it will be going through Ethernet. Before we do anything, let's get our machine set up. Let's try 192.168.5.1. Network port 23. That's the same thing that G Center would have connected to. I enabled DTR signal. All right. I mean, just going off memory, not looking at any instructions, that was not too terribly difficult to connect my long mill to MillMage. All right. I've got MillMage running my CNC machines. One of the best things about MillMage, if you're coming from a laser background and you're already used to using Lightburn, this looks identical. MillMage has stepped up their game here recently with this latest RC that will be released very soon. This is MillMage Pro 9 RC1. First things first. Now in Lightburn, I can right click the work area and I'll have an option for Windows. Don't have that here, so we will go up here the old-fashioned way. Click Windows. We'll click Art Library. If you already have art libraries built up, you can import those libraries directly into MillMage from Lightburn. All you have to do is load that library. It's on my server, so I'll load it directly from my server. Art library, there you are. I'm not going to load. I could load them all. Control A. Open all of them. So all of those libraries, I have them in MillMage now. Now let me go find one in particular. I'm looking for flags. In flags here, I'm just going to double click on a flag. Control, shrink that down to my material. A little bit more. I'm going to have to add some bits in here too, because this is a fresh install of MillMage. I don't think there's any bits or anything in here. First thing I want to do is my stars. This is one of the main reasons I did not think MillMage was a viable option at the time. I knew they was working on it, but now they have it. These stars are doable with a VCarve operation. So I'm going to go to my operations. We're going to create a new operation, and that's going to be a VCarve. With a VCarve operation, you need a VCarve bit. Luckily, they already have 3 V bits in here. The only thing I can see is V bits because I chose a VCarve operation. When you choose a VCarve operation, you will only see the bits that are capable of being used in that operation. You can't do a VCarve with an end mill. You can do a VCarve with a tapered ball nose. So that is something we'll have to, MillMage might have to work on that. You need to allow tapered ball noses in the VCarve operation toolpath. Anyway, let's go with a 60 degree. I'm just going to keep the defaults. First thing we need to look at is our start depth. It's going to be 0. Our pass per depth. For my bits and my machine, I don't see any problem whatsoever going with a 1/8 inch pass per depth. Step over. Let's step over 100%. Step over. I'm going to do 8%. And we're going to leave it at that for right now. We've got a VCarve operation. Now, if I hit preview, we got some stars. Look at them stars. We have a proper VCarve operation in MillMage. It is able to raise the Z so the tip of that bit can create sharp points. That is critical for any CNC program. If you don't have that, you don't have a CNC program, in my opinion. They have it now, so we are good to go. Oh, I was wanting to show the we've got a timeline here. We can watch this play out in real time. That is awful slow. You might want to go slow if you're starting out. You see it's taking 2 passes per star. That's going to clean those corners out real good. But like I said, you see how slow it's going in real time. When you get to the control mode, you can do the override and you can speed that up, which is awesome. Let's go back to edit. Let's look inside this toolpath again. Now that's what that's doing, is that's plunging that bit in as far as it'll go until the edges of that bit meets inside of your vector. You might not want it to go but so deep. So we can flip this button right here, limit maximum depth. And you see that's 0.39370 inches. That's not bad. I'm going to restrict that to 1/4 inch. This is a small flag, that's why it's only 8 inches tall, so it might not be bottoming out anyway. Max depth. Let's see what happens if we do 1/8 of an inch. Going for 1/4 inch to 1/8 of an inch maximum depth. It looks exactly the same. Let's make sure we assign it just to be sure. Looks exactly the same still. It's still a small carve, mind you. 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to go even shallower. I'm just going to put a 0 right there. That'll show us. Yep. So that tells us right there we do not have to assign the toolpath. We do not have to reassign that toolpath to the vectors. That toolpath already has its designation, so whatever you do to that toolpath will take effect to the design. Let's do 0.04. Let's do 0.05. See what that looks like. I don't know why it's not cleaning it out there. Is that due to the step over? Let's look and see. What step over do we have? 8% step over? Let's do a 5% step over. Nope, looks the same. So it's not really cleaning out the bottom very well with this V-bit. That's okay. I mean, that was just a trial anyway. We're not really going to play. We wouldn't really do that shallow of a carve anyway, more than likely. But there is your V-carving operation in MillMage. And you can play around with those numbers all you want. You can using different Maximum depths, don't use any maximum depth. Let's turn that back off and go back to our preview. Boom, it just plunges in there, sharpens out the edges, good to go. See how it's going in. This is a 60-degree V-bit again. So see how it's going in all the way down until the edge of the bit hits the edges of the vector, because there's no plunge depth. There's no limit to the depth, but there is a limit to the design. So it's going to stay within those vectors and plunge all the way down until the edge of that bit touches the inside of your vector. Watch that bit go down. Takes 2 passes, so all them stars are going to be cleaned out real nice. That second pass is going to clean any fuzzes off that's left from the first pass. That's something else to keep in mind too. You see how it's taking little circles as it's going down. It's not plunging directly down into your piece. You never want to plunge with an end mill. V-bits don't matter so much because they have a point. An end mill has no cutting edge on the bottom face. So you never want to plunge directly. You always want to make little circles, a circular pattern. So you never want to plunge a 1/4-inch hole with a 1/4-inch end mill. You will start fires. Anyway, there's the V-carving operation. And of course, the rest of these is straight end mill operations. You could just do a pocket on those. Now this is just a pocket, so we got access to all our bits now. Let's see, we're going to start at 0. We're going to final depth is going to be 1/4 inch, 0.25. Step over. I'll do a 40% with that end mill. There we go. That is very deep on this small piece of wood. So we'll look at that pocket operation. Final depth was 1/4 inch. Let's make that 1/8 of an inch. That's still pretty freaking deep for this small piece of wood. It's a good thing about having a preview that operates so blame fast. Zero, 5, let's see what that looks like. There we go. That looks real good. 0.05 inches is how deep I made that. And then you can take another vector and do a cutout operation. We want to do a profile. We're going to start depth at 0. I think which is 2 inches deep. Depth on this, I'm going to do let's do 1/8 of an inch just to keep it safe. The side, I want to go along the outside. We can double click on that to get rid of the excess material. There's a flag. One other thing we could do is take this. Let's do a profile. I'm going to use a V bit to make this profile. I'm going to use that 60-degree V bit. Final depth. What did I make them stars? We'll start at 1/8 of an, that's not 1/8 of an inch, it's a 0. We'll start at 1/8 of an inch and see what that looks like. Pass per depth, 0.125. And we want to do along the line. I want to stick directly on this line. That's a little deep. So I forgot how deep I made these stars. So on that right there, we'll delete that. We'll put a 0 right there. Perfect. Got a little score line around the union. We got our stripes. We got our stars. Those stars looking good. Alrighty, we just created a flag from a laser file I had made a long time ago out of our art library. Here's the exciting part though. Lyman is in here. Alright, this, I'm going to change out my material. We wouldn't use this block of wood that I just measured up. I'm going to make something off the top of my hip. I'm going to go to my file, edit project setup, and we're going to change our dimensions here a little bit. We're going to leave this a 13 wide, and we're going to make this 16 deep. We're going to stick with the 2-inch thickness. This is what I do a lot of my cherry. This is how I do a lot of my cherry cars. I'll hit an L. There's my Lyman. I'm going to click on this Lyman STL and just drag it to the work area. Boom. That is how, that's what brought up this importer. What this is going to do, it's going to take this STL and it's going to convert it into a grayscale depth map. So you can take any STL, bring it in here, and get a depth map and save it for the laser. All right. We have some options here. We can go at 100% by 100%, which is the actual size of the model. We can click this button and it will fit that model to the material, which is the option I'll choose this time. Then you see this right here, create depth map. I'm going to click that right there. It's going to calculate the depth map for us. And once it has that calculated, we can just import that depth map. That's how we're going to use our 3D operations in MillMage. I will shrink it a little bit though, because I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to take a first thing I'm going to do is grab me a vector, put it around our. I'm going to hit and put it around our model. I'm going to click that model, hit P. I'm going to Control C that, select. I'm going to select this. I'm going to hit P and center that. That way I got a vector around my model. I'm going to offset this about 1 inch. And I'm going to take the bottom of that one and drag it down just a hair. Go to my operations tab. We're going to do a pocket operation. We'll select us an end mill, which is over here, and the plywood setting. We want to go a 1/2 inch with this pocket. I want to go 1/8 of an inch per pass, and I'm going to use a 40% step over. I'm going to use offset on this particular operation. There's our toolpath. Let's preview it. There we go. We got us a border. Then I'm going to click our depth map, and we're going to do a 3D roughing pass. We're going to use the 1/4 inch end mill. We're going to go 1.5 inches deep. I'm going to go 0.125 inches per pass. And again, I'll do a 50% step over. This is a beast. I could be a little bit more aggressive than that, but. And we've got a roughing pass done. Final operation. Well, the next operation, I should say. I want to use in order to do a 3D finish reliefing pass, I need the proper tool. We're going to have to add my tapered ball nose. I'm going to add a new library. I'm going to call it IDC. And this library will create us a folder. I'm going to call this 3D bits, maybe. Bitty. 3D bits. Inside here, we'll create us a tool. New bit. Tapered ball nose. Name of this bit's going to be Fine. F-I-N-E. It's the Fine bit. The vendor is IDC. IDC. We got a URL right here. I could put the URL to purchase a new bit or whatever. I'm going to call this bit 1. I am going to use imperial measurements. The bit diameter is 1/4 inch, 0.25. 2 flutes. Tip radius is a 0.45. 0.45 inches. That has a 10-degree there. It has a 10-degree angle on that booger. Feed rate I'm using is going to be 60 inches a minute. Plunge rate, I'm going to make it 30. Spindle speed, I don't have a spindle. I think IDC said 19,000 on that. Step over on this bit, I am going to use an 8% step over. Now, with this image selected, I can go to a new operation. I'm not going to do a roughing pass. I'm just going to do a finishing pass for the demonstration here. I'm going to select that bit. I'm going to go 1.55 inches deep. That'll make sure I go deeper than that roughing pass did, so I don't end up with any overcuts on that roughing pass. That's kind of like adding your allowance right there. I'm going to go 8% step over. We are doing a raster. I could bump this up to 160, but as we'll see in a minute, in our control mode, we got the options to increasing that to 200% speed, which still could work in our favor with this machine, but whatever. We'll go with that right now. Now it's only calculating the finishing pass right now because it's already calculated the pocket and the roughing pass, and it does not recalculate those on every display, on every preview. And we'll prove that in just a moment. And right there, it looks like we've got a pretty decent carve going. I need a couple more operations. For one, I want to cut this out, so we need a profile cut. I can select tools that's already in my project. I'm going to go on the outside of that line. Final pass is 2 inches, is 2-inch material, and I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch per pass. All right, you see how fast it rendered that time? There we go. And there's just a plaque. All it's going to need is a little bit of sanding up. You see these little sprigs right here. VCarve does that too, but those will not be there on your final carve. They'll get knocked off. I'm going to, that looks like a pretty smooth carve. Right now it says it's going to take 9 hours. That's not accurate either. And you can see the 3D model sticks up above my frame, gives it a little bit more coming at you, gives it a little bit more pop. There's one more operation I'm going to perform. We're going to put a name down here. We'll just put my name. Get my select tool, I'm going to select my text, then I'm going to select that line, and I'm going to just line that up right there. I'm going to select the text, and we're going to click our text box up here, and I'm just going to hit my down arrow key until I find something I like. Well, I'm going to turn the bold on and then do that. Just going to use that. With that text selected, we're going to add one final operation. We're going to do a VCarve. I'm going to use a 60-degree V bit. Use 8%. Well, I'm going to use 8% step over. Depth per pass, I feel comfortable with 0.125, 1/8 inch. And I could set a final depth, but I'm not going to do that yet. Let's just see what it's going to look like. Oh, you see what I did? I made a 1/2 inch pocket right here. So that V bit is going to have to start at a 1/2 inch low. Start depth is 0.5 inches. Let's try that again. There we go. And double click to get rid of that extra material. And that looks like a pretty nice sign. Well, there you go. It's just that easy to import an STL, convert it to a depth map, and carve it out with MillMage now. I'm not going to make y'all sit here and watch this carve out for 9 hours. Of course, I know it ain't going to take but about 4 hours, but there's MillMage in a nutshell. So I would have no problem with paying $200 for that right there. You're going to be able to use your previous art libraries, your previous artwork, and you're already familiar with the workflow. So there you go. There's a walkthrough on VCarving and the 3D toolpath in MillMage. Well, there's the two new features coming in MillMage. Right now it's just RC, but they will be coming to a MillMage Pro pretty soon. Let me know in the comments if you think this is worth $200, and let me know if you plan to try it. And let me know what you make with it. Let me know what you think of it. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the next one.